Android and iPhone users, for the full version of WFO Radio, download the WFO Radio app. It's sports radio for racing fans.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
The ultimate racing show, including WFO Radio NHRA Nitro, WFO Radio Ignition, the WFO Radio NASCAR Tailgate Party, news, videos, push notifications, and more.
I just hope I'm part of it.
Go to the App Store or Android Market, search WFO Radio, and download it now.
If I can have your attention here in the Media Center, we will start today's post-race media availability for the AAA 400 here at Auto Club Speedway, and we're joined by race-winning crew chief Adam Stevens. We will open the floor up for questions for Adam. If you have a question, please raise your hand. We will get a wireless microphone to you. Questions for Adam Stevens. As we're waiting for questions, I'm sure – we got Lee right here at the front. Let's get a microphone to Lee.
SpencerRacingBoys.com. You got your wish. He waited until Sunday. So how does it feel?
It's pretty cool. You know, the 200 deal is it's awesome. You know, it's important for people to remember. It's not my 200th win by any means. But it's cool to be a part of his career. You know, he's as good as they get. Probably be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I don't know how anybody could argue that. And just to be so close to that level of talent and help him achieve what he's achieved is a tremendous honor, and I don't take it lightly. I never have. You guys have probably heard me say that before. But you know, get him to victory lane a few times and be a part of it on the Xfinity side, and a Cup championship, and a few Cup races, and now to be a part of his 200th win. I hope I'm there for 250.
Additional questions in the deadline room for Adam Stevens. We'll go to Bob and then to Dustin.
Fox Sports. You probably don't know this stat, but in the last 36 times he had led the most laps in an Xfinity race and had not won. He only won one of the Cup races the day after. So I'm curious, like, do you do anything after he has a race like he had yesterday to make sure he's ready to go, or to
no? But I'm probably going to start now that you pointed that out, Bob. That's ridiculous. I had no idea, but you know. I think we've all seen a lot of growth in Kyle through the years. And I've seen the most not behind closed doors, not dealing with him on the team. He's always been as good as he could possibly be in that regard. But the frustrations through the weekend and on the racetrack affect him less than maybe they did a few years ago. And I wouldn't expect that stat will hold true in the future. But now that you pointed it out, probably not surprised that – I'm surprised at the magnitude of that stat, but that stat exists. Maybe not, but he just operates at a whole different level now.
Go next to Dustin.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Adam, before that last pit stop, listening to you on the radio with him, he was talking about he was afraid to make an adjustment, and you said don't be afraid. Mm-hmm. How much, and I know when you're in the heat of the moment it's one thing, but how much of it is have you learned how to coach him through these things, and why do you, in that sense, why did you say don't be afraid in that case? I
mean, I was really just busting his chops, but you know, the car was pretty finicky today. We never made a wedge adjustment or a track bar adjustment. It was just air pressure and a piece of tape all day long. So we were close, but we kept bouncing from one side to the other. And these things are, when you get them right, they can be that way. Certain tire combinations are worse than others. But you know, we were a little tight. We adjusted. We were too free. We adjusted again. We were too tight. So, you know, I didn't want him to not tell me what the car was doing, because we were learning about the magnitude of our changes, and I didn't want him to forecast his impression upon what we were going to do. I just wanted him to tell me what it was doing. And every time that we made an adjustment and got his feedback, we got a little bit closer with the next one. And he was cautious to get it on the loose side and not be able to use the throttle like he needed to. So I was busting his chops a little, but I just wanted his honest assertion of what the car was doing at that time with no filter.
How often do you bust his chops that way?
At least once a race. I had a pretty good opportunity early in the race, and I didn't take it, but at least once a race and all weekend long. You you have to enjoy yourself. And we operate at a pretty high level of communication and know how to take each other. So we try to keep it light.
What was the situation?
When Denny was running us down at the end of the first segment, and the gap had closed quite a bit, and he didn't hear how much the gap had closed and sniped at me a little bit, and I let it go, but I was ready. I was ready to team up, but I didn't.
Questions in the terrace press box?
Yes.
Go ahead, press box.
Yeah, only one question at this time. First of all, congratulations, Mr. Adam. Just a question concerning the tire wear. You mentioned earlier you adjusted, when I understood it correctly, the air pressure. We saw some drivers having problems with tires. You were not concerned this could have happened also to Kyle?
We weren't concerned by the amount of wear. This is a place where you really try to push the air pressures pretty low, lower than what makes Goodyear comfortable. And I think that tire issues we saw, having not intimate knowledge of their situations, maybe they ran something over, I don't know. But generally you see a lot of failures here because people just get too aggressive pushing the air pressure down. So that coupled with running on the apron can really hurt the left sides. There's a lot of bumps on the back stretch that can really tear the sidewalls up on low air early in the run. So that was the concern, not the actual wear of the tread.
Any additional questions in the terrace press box?
No more questions from the terrace.
Skybox press, any questions from the Skybox press box?
No questions from the Skybox.
Great. We'll send it downstairs to Chase, and then we'll go to Christian.
Chase Willem, NASCAR.com. Adam, going back to what you and Dustin were talking about, do you think that's one of the biggest keys of your success with you and Kyle is the fact that you can bust each other's chops and get mad, but at the end of the day, nobody's feelings are hurt?
I mean, I think the key is communication, and how that manifests itself is just that we communicate well. And we both have the same goal, and we work toward that same goal. And everything that happens in between coming in the garage and leaving the garage, we pretty much leave here. And we do a real good job of learning from our mistakes as a team and always looking forward and moving forward. And I think it all just comes down to communication.
Christian Coley, frontstretch.com. I noticed beginning at the race, it was just really trashy outside. There was a lot of trash in the air. Was it a key to come down on pit road and try to clean off the grill every time? Because I noticed at one time there was a piece of debris on the grill when I was shooting photos in turn 3, and then it just seemed to disappear. How was it to keep the trash off the grill?
It's something that's a concern. I'm sure every car in the field picked up some debris at some point. As race teams, we've gotten a little bit more savvy about how to deal with that on the racetrack. And, it really wasn't an issue. We never had temps climb. But, out here it's been so windy the last few days. It wasn't too windy today, and that just stirs up a lot of stuff. And it's very common to pick up debris here. But we've all found ways to deal with that.
Go next to Dustin.
I also wanted to ask you about another communication. After the pit road speeding penalty, you were very adamant on the radio, obviously in a very calm voice, of, we don't need to get this immediately. We don't need to get this immediately. I guess one question would be, here is a veteran driver that's been through the battles. Are you saying that as much for yourself, or is that something that you've worked with him for so long. Why did you need to say it in that way, in that sense, for somebody who's been almost had 1,000 races in this series?
Well, I do talk to myself a lot, but I don't generally key up the mic when I do it. But it was just reminding him of the situation we were in. A couple of cars, we had to go tail end, but a couple of the lap down cars waved over for us. So, I think we restarted about 18th on the racetrack. So the ground to cover was a lot, but it wasn't something we couldn't do. And I felt like we had the best car and we had time on our side, and I really expected to see at least one caution to bunch us back up. So the last thing we wanted to do was him to not be aware of the situation and think we were a little bit more desperate than that, and then put it 5 wide on the top and drive it into the fence in the first corner, So he has the ability to make lots of moves, and sometimes those moves don't always come at the right time. So I just felt like it was the right thing to do to impress upon him that we could get there without any Superman moves early in the run.
Well, Adam, congratulations on the triumph, and good luck next week in Martinsville.
All right, guys. Thank you.
We are now joined by the race-winning car owner of today's AAA 400, and that is Joe Gibbs, owner of the number 18 Interstate Batteries Toyota. We will open the floor for questions. If you have a question for Coach Gibbs, please raise your hand. We'll get a wireless mic to you. We'll start here with Elliot.
Elliot Stern, Center Media Times. After the speeding penalty, you guys got sent back. And then Kyle took his time, but he made a couple of really bold moves on the track.
I don't think he took his time. I think he was wheeling that thing. He made a couple of moves there where I just felt like, holy mackerel. He just really, with a passion, the way he drives the cars, appreciate so much. And we'd had a speeding penalty this year that he felt like it cost him a race. And I think just he's an unusual athlete that if there's anything in front of him and he's driving a race car, he's going to try and get it. And so that showed up today, I think.
Does it give you chest pains when he's doing that, going through traffic? I mean, he dove through cars that would like going through a needle, threading a needle.
Yeah, it always, I'm amazed, really. And you just realize the passion and what kind of skill that takes. And so it was a great charge from the back. Here's the deal. I wasn't sure. Our car had been up front all day, and Adam had been adjusting on a car that was up front all day. And now for us to be in the back, I wasn't sure that we'd be able to handle traffic like that and get through there. But, hey, somehow Kyle was able to get it done. Adam did a great job. And I'm always, for me, when you see Interstate Batteries on that car today, just 27 years. They're our founding sponsor. Been with us. I called Norm and Scott today. They've been with us for 27 years and just great partners. And the thing about racing that I always like to emphasize, they're a huge part of our race team. And then you have Mars. We had Skills on the car last week, but the Mars Corporation is our major sponsor on that car. They play a huge role. They get along great with Interstate, and it's been a great partnership. And as everybody here knows, it takes a lot of resources to race cars at this level, and we're so fortunate with our race team. And then we got Toyota as a partner. So I just appreciate so many people get to celebrate this. I've been on phone calls talking to everybody at Interstate, everybody at Toyota, and certainly at Mars, and just thanking all of them, because that's what I go through. And I think about all the people back home. Coy and I are out here. We get to, obviously, from an ownership standpoint, get to celebrate this. Everything this year that's happened to us, JD, I feel like, is a part of our race team, and he's got a way to look down on us, and certainly everybody back home. We just all celebrate this, and it's a huge deal for us. When I think about it, JD spent 27 years of his life, occupational life. This is all he's done to build the race team. It's a huge emotional thing for all of us.
Go next to Jonathan, then to Justin.
Jonathan Merriman, NASCAR.com. Coach, how special of a talent is Kyle, and given your background, can you compare him to any other race car driver or any other athlete you may have seen on the football field?
I'm always leery when people ask you, they have great athletes, and people say, well, who's the best of all this kind of stuff. I'm always leery of that because there's been so many great drivers in NASCAR down through history that have built this sport. And I've noticed Kyle said the same thing. It's just that I do know that he's unusual. He's got a real gift. And as a part of that, there's a determination and a competitive attitude he has that you just don't find very often. And because of that, I think he's accumulating all the wins that he has.
Go next to Justin.
Justin Schuler, Speedway Media. Coach, there's no doubt Kyle has talent behind the wheel. But he has a lot of leadership outside of the Cup Series, especially when he ran the truck team and trying to recruit drivers. Do you feel that kind of overlays into driving, or that kind of goes hand in hand?
I don't quite understand. You mean?
Like maybe he sees someone that has a little bit of him and wants to develop that?
Oh, I definitely think with young talent, I'm talking to him all the time, because one of the keys for being, in Cup, You got 4 guys up there, and who's the next star? Is there somebody that's a superstar? And so I think Kyle has a real feel for that. He found Eric Jones, in a late model race, a big late model race. I go to him, talk to him all the time about talent. What do you think about these guys? And he's, I think he's very intuitive when it comes to young talent. I think he's really good at it, and I think his truck team is a place where a lot of young guys are getting their chance.
Do we have questions in the Terrace press box?
Yes, we have one question.
Go ahead.
Wolfgang Monser from Germany, Rennsport Press Agency. First of all, congratulations. There's no doubt Kyle is a very talented driver, a lot of qualities, but he and the Toyota Camry seems to be a perfect combination. From the technical point of view, when I just watched the race, stage 1, 2, and 3, I couldn't believe the speed. I mean, the Fords and Chevys had no chances. Is there anything magic with the Camry? Why the car is so much faster?
I actually think coming into the race, everybody here would have said the Fords were the fastest. Really, I think everybody felt like that was going to be a Ford day, and so it kind of goes back and forth. The Fords have been very quick. Joey's won, Brad's won, and so I think it kind of goes back and forth. Who gets hot? Who's got the car for the day? And that's the reason why it's so competitive up here at this level. But I do think it's, like I said, I know the Fords have really been good, and I really think we were, I think Kyle felt like he was pretty good, but I really felt like the people I talked to on our race team felt like the Fords were probably the fastest of the field for this weekend.
Any questions in the Skybox press box?
No questions.
Okay, we'll come back downstairs. Any questions for Coach Gibbs? We'll go to Jeff.
Obviously, you've been around sports for a long time, and I find it interesting that, like, everybody, even on your own team, was saying, "Hey, the Fords are going to be the fastest," and throughout the season, everybody's thought the racing was going to look a certain way, and didn't. Yeah. Does it ever cease to surprise you that all the predictions throughout all sorts of sports, they don't seem to always come true that often?
I got to tell you, pro sports, I think I've said this numerous times. I said in both football and when I was there, and now that I'm in racing, I said that they're both very unpredictable, and I think it's because the best people in the world are doing it, and all it takes is a little bit to slip one way or the other, okay, in either sport. It's easy to fall off. 15, we had a horrible year. I mean, it can happen to you. And I said, too, that in the pro sports, the 2 I've been in, they change at roughly 30% a year. For instance, you think about our sport. We got segment racing. It's changed everything. The playoffs the way it is now. We come out with this new package. And I think you make a good point. And I think somebody asked Kyle that last week, and I think he said, you're just going to have to wait because we don't know. And, we all were looking at it. I bet this is what's going to happen, and it surprises you when you really get in traffic. So, and you get racing. I think what's going to happen after 8, 9, 10 races, we're probably going to have a feel for this. I do know that NASCAR will keep working on the racing package. We're just going to keep doing that because what? We're trying to get the best racing, and what you'd really like to have, always reward the best car for the weekend. You'd like to do that. But you'd also like to have what? You'd like to have a lot of racing and a lot of changes of leads. And we're all continuing to work towards that. And so I think it's a work in progress. But I think pro sports, if you look at the NFL, all the things that's happened over there, whether it's the concussion thing or changing rules or this or that, or pro sports, they're constantly changing. I think they're smart people in charge, and I think they're trying to address things and make it better for the fans and attract the fans. That's what we're trying to do, too. Very important, and we got a great fan base. I appreciate coming to L.A. because this is a huge deal for NASCAR. Being here, having that fan base today, it's a big deal for us.
Go next to Dustin.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Joe, in just talking about pro sports constantly changing, but you look back at the last 50 Cup races. Kyle's won 13. That's a ridiculous 26% winning percentage.
Yeah.
how do you? And I know that's partly your team as well, but how do you explain that with all the changes that have happened in the last 50 races? That goes back to the end of the 2017 season.
Yeah.
That you have one guy who's won essentially a quarter of the races in that period.
Well, I think take a look at football. We got something going on over there that's what? We got a team that's dominating things. And really, I think lots of times in pro sports, when somebody's kind of dominating something, they have the biggest growth because everybody's trying to, hey, we're going to try and beat them, and everybody's pulling against that person or that team. I think Kyle and Adam have kind of hit it. And we all know kind of how hard that is because how long does a driver and a crew chief stay together? We all see it play out. And I think they're an unusual pairing. Adam is very strong, and he'll step out there with Kyle and does a great job of leading it. And so I think Kyle is very gifted. Does that mean it's going to keep going like that? No, we got off to an unbelievable start. This is fantastic for us and our race team. But the thing that you can count on in pro sports, everybody's coming. Everybody's after it. You look at all those race teams that are out there and how good they are. You got Penske and Hendricks, and you got the guys coming after you. And so I think that's what makes it so exciting. And I think he made a good point too. We don't know what's going to happen from week to week.
I want to check that the Hall of Fame coach of the Washington Redskins compared his driver to the New England Patriots.
No, I did not. I did not mention. I did not mention that name. I just said it does happen in pro sports.
Well, Coach, congratulations on the win today.
Thank you.
Good luck next week in Martinsville.
All right, thank you. Thanks, guys.
We are now joined by the winner of today's AAA 400 and the winner of 200 NASCAR National Series races, Kyle Busch, driver of the 18 Interstate Batteries Toyota for Joe Gibbs Racing. If you have a question for Kyle, please raise your hand. We'll give a wireless microphone to you. We'll start with Kathy.
Kathy Brown, pitting outside the box. Congratulations.
I didn't do that today. I sped. Just kidding.
I know. No, you didn't get penalized today for that. They say nothing's as special as your first win, but this 200th win has got to be very special. Going back, how do you compare your first win to this win today?
I don't know. That's so long ago. I remember a little bit about it, obviously, but just the I don't know. I mean, I think the emotion of it on the first one was way greater, just because it was the first one. I mean, my mom was in tears today. She was in tears on the first one. I don't know how many of the in-between 198 she was in tears for, but I'm sure there were a few of those as well, too. It's just been a crazy ride, and to get 200 here today at Auto Club Speedway is pretty cool. I mean, to bookend number 1 and 200 here at the same place, it's kind of crazy. On the same asphalt, this place hasn't been repaved, so that's been pretty cool as well, too, and just being able to win. That's what it's about.
We'll go next here to Elliot, and then to Lee.
I heard you say, and I didn't get all of it, about a comparison to Richard Petty. The 200 wins is significant, and he had 200, but you brought up like LeBron and Michael Jordan. And how do you compare then to Richard Petty?
So somebody asked me about whether or not I was the greatest of all time, and I was like, I'm never going to self-proclaim that. That's for others to debate. But, I just look at LeBron James is obviously really, really good in basketball. So is Michael Jordan, and two of them, arguably one of them, which one or the other, could be greatest of all time. But in my opinion, I don't know if in this day and age now anymore, with how many eras we've been through in racing or basketball or football or whatever, if there is truly a greatest of all time. I think there's obviously greats, and I would just like to be attributed or, in that mix of the top 5, top 8 guys. I think by the time I'm all said and done, I could be in the top 2 or 3 of those guys of greatest of all time, but I think it's going to be really, really hard to exactly pinpoint how you can define greatest when that time comes.
Go next to Lee. And then to Dustin.
Lee Spencer, RacingVoice.com. Earnhardt told Jeff Gordon early in his career, don't worry about what the fans think. As long as they're making some sort of noise, you know that you've, hit on something. But fans also like winners. Have you noticed the?
Do they?
Well, I mean, have you noticed a
They
pickup?
booed the hell out of Earnhardt for a long time, and Jeff Gordon, and Jimmy Johnson.
But do you feel your fan base picking up with your winning percentage?
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like my fan base has been picking up over the years, just of growing up a little bit. You know, obviously I turned off plenty back in the early days, and you're never going to change those minds, which is fine. But you know, there's certainly some that are kind of turning the table or turning the corner a little bit as to seeing about more of what's today, who I am today, and the growing up that I've done. But overall, just you know, I think that winning obviously kind of helps that. You know, I certainly have to give a huge shout out and praise to the Rowdy Nation fans that have been with me since the beginning, that have been with me since the 5 Kellogg's days, or heck, even my Xfinity days before I was a Cup guy, whatever. So even in Las Vegas, when we go out there and I sign autographs at M&M's World, there's people that I see there that come out that I remember seeing at the Bull Ring in Las Vegas, you know, and they're still Kyle fans. So those are the core group that I certainly am very appreciative of and that are very passionate about me.
Go next to Dustin, then to Jeff, and then to Chase.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Kyle, I'm curious, from your perspective, this win, 200, do you feel like it's more important to other people than it is to you? Obviously, it's created a lot of discussion, and I think about it in one sense, you know, in what, 6 days, 5 days, you're going to be in a truck at Martinsville, and you're a racer and competitor, and you're going to be focused. So I'm just trying to get a true sense of what 200 means, and is it do you feel like it means more to other people than it does to you right now because you're in the middle of it?
I mean, this was win number 200, but there's so many of the 200 that are special or meaningful, and I don't know how you can categorize or characterize all of them. And, you know, people ask me, well, what's the biggest win of your career? And I'm like, well, I guess Homestead 2015 is probably the biggest, right? So, you know, where does number 200, the 200th win at Auto Club Speedway, stand? I don't know. You know, is it in one of the top 10 most memorable? Probably, because it is number 200, but just because of that. You know, it wasn't like it was the Daytona 500 I got it, or the Coke 600, or a Brickyard 400, or anything like that. So it was one of our races that's on our schedule. And it just so happened to be out here in California. But, you know, they've all been cherishable for their particular reasons, and I don't want to discredit any of them. I think that this milestone is obviously a special one to me, to many of those that are around me. My wife, my son will one day be able to recognize that, and Adam Stevens, my guys. I know many of the crews and crew chief people that I've worked with over the course of my career obviously feel something about it as well too. So it's pretty cool to hear from those guys.
Go next to Jeff, and then to Chase.
You were pretty open for years about wanting to get to 200 at some point. So now that that's been checked off, do you have another number in mind, or is anything beyond this just a number?
Yeah, I think anything beyond this is just another number. But I mean, I could go lightly and say, oh well, yeah, 250, you know, or I could go reach for the stars and say, well, 300. What's wrong with that? I would be banned from all of them by then. Exactly. You know, if I won 100 Cup races, they'd probably be like, all right, that's enough. You're done. I don't know. Nobody from F1's calling. So, you know, that's about the only thing higher, I guess, that I could try to go do. But, you know, with being close to 100 on Xfinity, that's kind of what I said I'd quit at. The truck stuff, being in the 50s, just I'd love to be able to continue on with that and be able to race those. They're my trucks. I like that. I like working with those guys, my team, my company. And then on the Cup side as well too. You know, somebody asked me, they're like, "Well, is 100 a number?" And I was like, "Sure. You know, we'll set the next number on the Cup side at 100, and it's going to be hard to get there. There's no question about that. You know, but you might as well set your goals high and go out there and strive to achieve."
Next to Chase.
Chase Wilhelm, NASCAR.com. Kyle, going back to the Michael Jordan, LeBron James thing. Jordan, he won 6 championships. LeBron has 3 right now.
Mm-hmm.
But there's other records that LeBron has reached to put him in that GOAT conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But in this sport, it seems like we only associate the GOATs with number of championships. So with you reaching this number today, do you think it's fair to talk about the greatest drivers of all time or some of the greatest and just focus on championships?
Yeah, to me, like I said, in different eras, there's so many different things. Jimmy Johnson, he should be the GOAT, right? He should be the greatest of all time. He won the most championships in the most different ways of having to win a championship in the most different cars that he had to drive to be able to win races. Before 2004, it was always the whole season was the champion, right? Now, then we had the 10-race playoff. Now we have 3-3-3 and then 1, and unfortunately for me, I've made it to the Final Four the last 4 years, and I've only won it once, So I feel like LeBron James, where I can make it to the finals, but then once I get there, I can't quite close it out and get it all done, So there's, like I said, there's so many different, you said it too, comparables that not every single one person is going to have every single one of them, right? There's going to be this guy's got this guy's got that guy's got that, this guy's got this. And so I think that's what makes it to where you can't always say that there's a greatest, that there's greats.
Okay, we're going to head up to the Skybox. Any questions in the Skybox press box?
One question.
Go ahead, Skybox.
Hey, this is Chris Knight from CatchFence.com. Kyle, I've heard you mention Formula One a couple times over the past couple weekends, so I was curious if the doors ever opened and the opportunity was for you to walk away from NASCAR and you had an opportunity from a good team, would you take that F1 opportunity?
They're going to have to spend a hell of a lot of money to buy me out of Joe Gibbs Racing, that's for sure. So I don't know if it's going to be worth their investment. There's probably too many things that those guys think about that we'd never be good at being able to drive those cars. I know Jimmy gave it a shot a couple weeks ago. Jeff's given it a shot, and I'd love to be able to give it a shot and kind of see, but I don't foresee the opportunity really blossoming and becoming something that I could take advantage of.
Any questions in the Terrace press box?
Yes, one question from the Terrace.
Go ahead, Terrace.
Actually, two questions. Wolfgang Monse, Rennsport Press Agency from Germany. Kyle, first of all, congratulations. Your 200 wins came with a Japanese car, Toyota. What's your personal opinion? Will this increase your fan base in Japan? And secondly,
I'm number one in Japan, man. No question. Got that. Check.
And question number two, do you think personally there is maybe now a possibility you get a trip invitation to the headquarters in Japan to get a special award from the Toyota headquarters?
I unfortunately, back when I won my championship, I was invited over there, and just timing didn't work out, and I wasn't able to get over there in order to be able to go and see those guys. There's only one guy that I need to be my fan over there in Japan, and that's Akio. So as long as Akio's a fan, then I'm all set. I'm good. But no, I'm sure we've got plenty of Japanese fans from Japan that are huge about being Toyota followers and Toyota supporters, and it's cool to be able to have them over here. And for as much influence as they have on the U.S. economy and the things that they do, building cars here in the U.S. with 9 or 12 different plants, over 60,000 employees, American employees that have jobs here, is pretty remarkable. So obviously we wouldn't be in our position today without their support and the men and women of Toyota TRD that do such a great job to get us fast race cars each and every week to the racetrack.
Any additional questions here in the deadline room? Elliot?
Elliot Stern, Santa Maria Times. I asked Coach Gibbs this. If you gave him a heart attack, after you got
Please don't say that word.
Pushed back. Well, I've had two, so I can use
I don't need him to have any.
But after you got pushed back in the field, you made a couple of bold moves with no room to spare to make them.
Yeah.
What did you see that said in your mind, I can make that move?
I'm how do you term this? I'm pretty good with, you know how in movies, like you can, like when you go into the head of somebody that has like that vision where you can like, it's got like all that, like a fighter jet vision, right? Like you can see, I have that. So I can see the gap. I can see exactly how wide the gap is and to know how wide I am, and I can fit that gap. So I have that vision. That wasn't funny. Okay, good. Moving on. So yeah, I mean, just when I go and I get a run and I see opportunities to make some of those moves, it's whether or not the gap looks big enough, and if it looks big enough, I'm going for it and I'm shooting it, and if it closes up, then we might wreck. But fortunately, the guys up top on the spotter stand have been getting a lot better at knowing that I'm a crazy idiot, and they'll tell their drivers to leave room sometimes so I can get through there.
All right, Jason Versidlo, AmericaJR.com. At what point today did you know you were going to win? Was it like 10 laps to go, 5 laps?
It was before the race started. Serious question. What was the question? When did I know I was going to win? I don't think you ever know when you're going to win. I guess, you kind of, the relief sets in when you take the white flag because you know you're coming back no matter what to end the race. So that's kind of when the relief sets in. So, it obviously was, you're hearing every single little noise in the race car and things like that for the last 20 laps of the race. You're hearing rocks flying up in the quarter panel thinking, is that rubber chunks? Is the tire coming apart? And so it's just crazy that you hear everything that you don't want to hear in the final 20 laps. But I would say once you take the white flag, that's pretty much when you seal the deal.
Well, Kyle, congratulations on your 200th win and to many more.
All righty, thank you.
Take care.
Appreciate it, guys.
This is WFO Radio.